We are back to continue our omni-channel journey, and it's time to talk about retail. How retail must evolve to embed and embrace circular economy. For that talk, I'm very pleased to welcome on stage Astrid WENDLANDT, founder and editor of Miss Tweed.
On va changer maintenant.
Ça marche. Next to join me, Igor, BARISIC, Retail Operations Manager of Longines. Maximilien, URSO, CEO of Cresus. Nicolas, REBET, CEO of Retailscope. Tim MALACHARD, Marketing Director of Mille. And last but not least, because we need more women in that panel, Camille, GRECO, co-founder and CMO of Crushon.
Hi everyone.
Hi Camille. Yes. Yeah.
Is it working? Can you hear me?
The floor is yours. Thanks.
Great. Camille, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you perfectly.
Great. Camille, feel free to jump in anytime or, raise your hand as if you were in the room with us if you want to react to what anyone says, because it's not because you're away, so we're going to try to, make this even more human than what technology can do, which is exactly what we were talking before.
One thing for you, she's here. So the cameras are here, so she will see better. She will see you better here.
So we've introduced everyone here. We have a quite different panel. We have somebody who is an online retailer. So Maximilien URSO, who's the CEO of Cresus, which is an online retailer specialized in watches and jewelry, but you also have boutiques, so bricks and mortar and online. I just want to introduce everybody. Igor here is at Longines. You've been there for what, 8 years now?
8 years now, yeah, correct.
And your official title is?
Retail Operation Manager.
Retail Operation Manager. And you're going to tell us as well with Tim about the vintage aspect of
sure.
things. And here, Nicolas who he calls himself a retail addict.
Yes, I am.
And I think it's a good disease to have, especially in this room. And you are the CEO of Retailscope, which is a consultancy specialized in customer experience and analyzing retail trends. And you're going to tell us about what you've been thinking about. I would like to start maybe by helping us think about the market right now, which is changing very rapidly. But maybe I would like to start with Maximilien, who has big antennas and sees where demand is, what the changes are. And tell me, Maximilien, right now, what are you doing to differentiate yourself? Because the market is becoming more and more competitive. There are more and more, you see now there's eBay who has great ambitions. You have the auctioneers. You have more and more companies coming on the second-hand market. You even have a trade fair called Reluxury dedicated to second-hand. So there is more and more interest in that market. Tell us, how are you, becoming more competitive and really differentiating yourself?
So, you can listen to me?
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay. So Cresus is existing for 30 years now. So the market during the last 30 years for sure changed a lot. And let's say that our DNA is the passion. The passion for watches, for jewelry, for luxury goods, for the history of the pieces we are selling. And it's more to exchange to share about our passion. And for sure you have some speculation, you have some trends about some brands, some new models, some new people coming in that market. And our DNA and what is the success of Cresus is passion and expertise. And that's the key. Expertise as well. Because that's the key for our teams, because the competition is quality, and the quality is to share a good moment with some of our vendors that they are super geek in the good way, and expert, and they can learn about the story about the brand, about the mechanism, about all the universe about the watch industry, because as we are selling 50 brands for the last 60 or 70 years, the knowledge about all those brands is super wide. So that's what we are working with, and it's very successful, and we just see that on the show as well.
Now, Tim, since how long has Richard Mille started offering vintage or secondhand or pre-loved? What's the expression you use?
We call it CPO, certified pre-owned, because it's a label that we give on our watches. Our reflection started in around 2012, 2013 with Richard Mille, when we just saw that there was growing demand for authenticated products.
2013?
Yeah.
So you were one of the first, no?
I'm
talking about...
That's when the brainchild, let's say the birth of the conversation started. And then we started rolling out, let's say from 2015, where we started developing the second-hand retail network, starting from Japan and branching out with URSO as well, and then over to Europe and then Singapore. So that's when the kind of like idea is starting spurring from 2013 onwards. We're still a young brand at Richard Mille.
Yeah, you were founded in
2001.
Oh, really? I thought you were older.
2001 was when the brand was first launched with the very first models.
Incredible, isn't it?
In the first year, we had a production of only 17 watches, so it was very, very early days. And today we're over 5,000 units. But no, it was a reflection more about the fact that we saw a lot of watches coming in, let's say, in after sales in our boutiques where we have watchmakers. And usually we were, let's say, bearing the repercussions of what was not, let's say, quality to the level of the brand. And we thought, well, you know, these people are coming to us because they're not happy with what they've bought, whether it be through auction or other independent retailers.
But can you expand? What do you mean they were not happy?
Because the servicing hadn't been done properly.
The expertise?
The expertise, the historical checks, the authenticity hadn't been done to what we deem to be to the level of a brand. And when a customer buys a watch at the price point at which we are, when they're disappointed with something, who do they go back to? The brand.
Of course, yeah.
So that's how we thought, well, we're going to go out there and create our own certified pre-owned network with fully factory-trained technicians and make it independent in different locations around the world. And that's how we started rolling out with guidelines that we had with our partners, which we took on board as well. And it took a bit of persuading, but because for us, the secondary business is very different from the new business. Because you're in the secondary business, you're dealing to a different clientele who are collectors. You're also dealing with watches that we didn't produce anymore, so you're going onto the market where you can actually go and offer certain models that we'd stopped producing, even in 2015. So that was also, you know, we're lucky to have enough Richard Mille customers around the world who are seeking for certain models that we don't retail anymore, because we do limited editions and we have models that have changed in the last 20 years. So we felt that it was our obligation to do something more than anything else. So
now you have how many they're in boutiques, right?
Yeah, they're not in our Richard Mille boutiques, it's separate, and they have a certified pre-owned certificate to be able to retail Richard Mille second-hand.
But so where are there, how many places?
London, now London is one in Europe that we opened a few years ago. We're in Singapore, in Japan we have 4.
Right, so you have about 10, 12 in the world?
Yeah, roughly 10. We're getting to around 10, let's say, all in all, yes.
And a lot of people here know the brand Richard Mille, but just in case those who didn't, what's the average price of a Richard Mille watch today?
New retail price today, what we sell is around 250,000 Swiss francs.
That's the average?
Average retail price.
And what was the average about 10 years ago?
Oof, we're pretty much less.
100, no?
No, yeah, I'd say over 100.
Because when
120,000 roughly 10 years ago.
I've been writing about luxury since 2007, so I have seen that progression, and I thought, 250,000 euros, the average price. Yeah. And then last question, because there are other things. What do you think right now is the challenge for you, for that CPO business?
Well, for us, it's something that we are working with our partners around the world who also have helped the brand to get to where it is today, because we're doing this with our distributor partners, whether it be in Asia and US and Europe. And it's really about, creating, helping accompany them on developing the Richemont brand, both for the second hand and also, like I said to you, it's all down to provenance, history, authentication. We're lucky. We have a database showing all the watches we've produced in the last 21 years. So we're the best to actually give the information out there on when we want to sell second-hand Richemont watches to new customers or existing customers. Because generally speaking, the customers before buying in the secondary business will come to us anyway for spot checks. Can you tell me whether the serial number is been stolen, whether it's been lost? Can you give me history on the watch? And that's what we have in-house. And that's why we thought we should actually go out there and cater the market.
So does every watch, you have like a central database? And,
yes.
And you know what's happened as much as possible? You keep that ledger of...
Yeah, I mean, we're only 20 years old. Like I said, in the last 5 years, we're creating more and more of that database with the history of all the watches that are serviced in our service centers all over the world. So we're lucky because that's what we're creating more and more as we go forward.
And a question that I will also ask you, does a vintage or old Richel Mille cost more than a new one? Is it depending on the rarity? How does it work? Because that's an interesting question.
That's the secondary market. Today, a lot of our watches retail in the secondary market for more than when they did new. So yes. So when we've taken watches, let's say part exchange, and sell them in through our second-hand stores, then yes, we have to sell them at what is today the market value. But that's also one of the reasons why we wanted to do two separate entities between new watches and Richemont boutiques, of which we have 39 in the world, and the second-hand stores we have.
So Igor, tell us about Longines and the vintage corner. When did it start?
It started together. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
It started together with our new boutique in Geneva last year. And what we decided to do, we were, of course, thinking at Longines to do either pre-owned business or CPO, call it however you want. So do we just do like, let's say, everybody else and trade current collection watches and then resell them again to the same customers? We decided to know and to go in a bit more niche business, which is really vintage. So we decided to take only watches before the quartz crisis, who embarks Longines movements, actually.
So what year are we talking here? The 80s, 70s?
So 70s maximum to 75 or
so
80s.
It's really, is it marketed as such? Is it like pre-quartz crisis?
No, of course not. But we are calling that our collector's corner.
Right.
And actually it's, let's say, a bridge between our rich history. We have 190 years this year.
Longines, yeah?
Yes, Longines of a rich history. We did, let's say, many re-edition of vintage watches and so on. But why not take real vintage watches and also sell them? This is why we decided to do such and to take some vintage watches, to restore them completely and to put them on sale in our boutique in Geneva, who is the only boutique worldwide Longines to do that. But we are working on to expand that to other markets, such as Japan or USA.
That's great. And I mean, last year you've waited a long time. Why have you waited so long to get into this second-hand market? Richel Mille has been on it since 2013. Sorry, that's a tough question. But
it is, but they are precursor in a lot of things. But no, we were thinking about such things for many years, but we were a little bit searching the way to do it, and it took a few years, and we decided to go last year with that very specific concept of vintage watches.
Nicolas, I'd like you to tell us a bit about this price dynamic, because that's something that you've noticed a lot between the pre-loved, the new. Sorry.
There's sometimes a difference between the price, the retail price, and all the previous, the second-hand products don't have a higher price than the retail price. So sometimes for sales assistants, it's sometimes difficult to say to someone, okay, you have this product in front of you, and in 2 or maybe 10 years, the price will be lower than you have paid. So that's why sometimes the brands don't want to launch some CPO corners, because the story is not the same. It's just the good one for the brand. And
So are you
are
saying
the
you need
clients-
to be a strong and very desirable brand maybe to do this? Because if not, then you have the risk that if you launch CPO, then the prices, yes, and I won't like to.
And even for the biggest brand, there are some items which will take some very important price on the next years. But a lot of items don't get some high value of time after time. And we see in particular in fashion, that's globally the items are decreasing. So
The items are what, sorry?
the price item are decreasing by the time. And
You mean the longer it's on the market, or you mean what?
no, the average price of a piece is decreasing, and you say to your clients, what do you say? This piece is which has a price today of 500, and maybe in 2 years it will be only 200. The approach is very different from an item from fashion than a watch.
So are you saying there is more of a price decrease risk for fashion than there
Yeah.
is for watch and jewelry?
Yes, deeply.
Right.
And that's why they want, and even some watches, all the old watches don't take some value by the time.
And I think I'd like to also ask Camille what she thinks. But Maximilien wants to, I think, react to what has been said about prices.
I think it's not anymore a discussion to have because the CPO market or the second-hand market is 30 billion worldwide. The increase, the growth is higher than the brand new. So the people, the end consumer, they are on the secondary market. Now, the big challenge, as we are independent, we have no rules. We can play with the market. We can be a curator to indicate to our clients what we recommend. We can follow the trends. We can try to push the trends because we are our own expert to say, okay, we bet that brand, Longines, for example, is underpriced and maybe in the 5 years, but it's like you invest in real estate or you invest in other things. So it's a sort of commodities, but at the same time, you can use it. You can wear it, you can enjoy it out of a financial investment or real estate or whatever. I think the watch industry is very conservative, but you need to see the other industries, such as Richard Mille is a big partner with the car industry. You have the same trend, the same question, and it's not anymore a question. So the question is, do the brands want to be in the game? Or just to watch it outside and say, I'm afraid to go in. For sure, you can do mistakes. For sure, you can not do the appropriate operation. But it's, as we talk every day about a legacy about the brand, it's how you appropriate your own self, your own legacy. So it's not so easy, but it's done.
Yeah.
The trend is there. You see, we have a small player. We exist only for 30 years in France, but you have such a big player as a Watchfinder, Watchbox, that they are in the game very powerfully. It's over. So now it's more how you handle that than do we do that.
What do you mean it's over? What do you mean?
It's over to think, do the brand, and you are one of the precursors. That's great, but a lot of brands, they don't know if they have to go there or to
You mean enter the second-hand market themselves?
It's a discussion we have every day with brands. So.
How to go there? It's easiest for you because you're independent. When you're a brand, what's
But
the
if you
storytelling about the
If you
products
do
you sell?
nothing, I think it's
if you're a brand, you take a risk, and for us, we took the risk knowing that we had to go out there and offer a solution for our customers because we just saw there was a gap, and we owed it to the brand for the long term. So for us, it was just a no-brainer.
But you're also a size. You see, I'm going to reveal, I've talked to anyway, maybe not the name, but somebody quite senior at Louis Vuitton. And he said, no, it's too complicated for us to get in. And Camille, I want to hear your thoughts about this in just 1 second. But that's really the issue is, yes, you want to get in, but how can you get in? And are you able, you see? And you made this point, Maximilien, earlier, that the size of the second hand, I think, is already bigger than the size of new watches, right?
No, the growth. The growth of the second hand. The size not yet, but well, maybe one day.
Because, I was told the size, actually, of the second hand.
But it depends also on the customers themselves. If they are going and if they are just looking for watches of brands that have a shortage of production, those, let's say, few years right now, and if this is the secondary market, as soon as those 1, 2, 3, 5 brands will compensate their production, the market will then decrease over there. If it is just a matter of that, if you see that, okay, no, it is really an established market, that customer doesn't come to you just because they can't have the watch in the new market, let's say, to their other retailers. Okay, but if they get back to their original production, they make watches and you can just have them at Boucher or I don't know where. What is then the secondary market really?
I want to hear your thoughts, Camille. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, perfectly.
So I want to introduce you again. Camille GRECO, she's the co-founder of Crushon, which sells online and in boutiques vintage fashion. That is correct. And you are also the general secretary of the Federation of Circular Fashion. So
Exactly.
you have 3 boutiques in Paris, and you're thinking of opening 2 more, you said, in the next few months?
Yeah.
So you're
Yes.
also created in 2018, quite a young company. And you also did your first retail partnership with a Crushon permanent corner at Galeries Lafayette in September 21. And you're also have ephemeral pop-ups with other Galeries Lafayette department stores. Now, tell us a bit about what you think. We've been discussing here about, you see, watches have their own dynamics, and fashion really has its own dynamics here. And could you tell us about prices? What do you see? A dress, for example. Because, again, in fashion, you have handbags, you have shoes, and you have dresses. Handbags usually... that I want to know. Is it a more liquid asset than, let's say, shoes which could be worn, let's say dresses that might have, what is really the dynamics that you see in the second-hand market for vintage fashion?
I think there is 3 parts of the vintage market. There is the second-hand market, which is not like garments not selected or accessories really not selected, just reused. There is a vintage market, which is more qualitative. And then there is a luxury vintage market. And I think we have the same dynamic between accessories and garments on this specific markets, on the luxury markets. Because as you say, Nicolas, effectively, when they take time on the market, watch take values. And it is the same for garments, but luxury garments. When you have a jacket from Yves Saint Laurent of a specific collection, let's say in 1989, it will take values, and its value will higher in the market. But if you take fast fashion garments, for sure, it will not have any value at all, even at a first-hand garment. So it depends on where you're located and where you situate your opinion and your vision.
And how do you see the market evolving? I mean, you obviously have great ambitions, but tell us about what are your concerns? How do you see the market evolving in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, the second-hand market, the vintage market, is growing very fast. As you said, in terms of growth, it's growing faster than the first-hand industry, and it will be bigger than the first-hand industry in 2028.
Says who?
In the United States.
No, but says who? Who says?
ThredUp.
Oh, ThredUp, right.
ThredUp, it's, yeah. It's yeah, very famous vintage retailer in the United States market industry, and they do the most complete research about secondhand.
And
So I think it's a great treasure for vintage industry and for the secondhand in terms of accessories or garments.
And so how do you see, what's the main challenge for you then? Is it finding enough products? Is it building trust among customers?
I think there is a real challenge in building trust around consumers, because a lot of consumers are not used to buy second-hand clothing, and surely not at the same price as they would buy first-hand clothing. And I think there is still an issue of perceived value around pre-loved clothes, and people really don't get that. First, they usually don't pay the right price when they buy a new t-shirt at €5. And second, it's a real work to find, repair, clean, and sell a vintage garment. And those vintage garments usually worth a higher price than second-hand garments that you would find in a box in a charity shop, or even some first-hand garments produced by fast fashion brands. So it's really important to put quality first in the vision of consumers in order to democratize vintage for all type of consumers. And also another challenge that vintage is facing right now, it's really about omni-channel. So I think when it's going to be in boutique, it will only be accessible for a certain type of consumers. Then it became more digital, so it's opening to another type of consumers, younger consumers. But I think we will have everyone if the vintage will become an omni-channel industry and should be both offline and online.
And then I want this question for you, Camille. I will also ask you. So, who is your, profile customer? Is 25 years old? Lives where? Can you tell us about your stereotype customer?
Yes, so it's from 16 to 35 years old. It's how can I say? It's buying vintage because he want to have a unique style, he or she.
So it's not saving. So that's very interesting. It's not saving the planet. It's looking cool. Number one.
Well, saving the planet is cherry on the cake, and that's not is not a small cherry, if I can say. So actually, buying vintage is three very distinct and at the same time, how can I say, complementary benefits. So it's stylish, it's less expensive for when it's not luxury watches, and it's good for the planet.
It's what, sorry?
So actually, it's good for the planet.
Yeah.
It has a good impact. So actually, it gathers a lot of good quality, and we can touch all consumers through those qualities.
And do you think that the future will be more and more young people? I've had some come and say, my daughters say, Maman, you're not going to buy a new dress. That's so passé. And really, you get comments like that. Are you getting comments like that too from young people who say, buying a new dress? Come on.
Well, there is so much more in buying a vintage dress or a vintage watch, where you have the history behind, you have quality also behind, and it's much more emotional. So we are working on it. So we're sure that not only young people will buy vintage, but also older people of all styles and all shapes.
And what are your average prices? Because we gave some prices here, but what are your average prices?
Depends on the category. For a t-shirt would be around 25. For a jacket would be around 100. It depends on what kind of jacket. It can really be very, very different. And also, we are selling vintage, but we are also selling luxury vintage. We have a lot of different type of garments. So it depends of what the user wanna buy and what quality you wanna have.
While I have you, Camille, and then I'm going to turn to Nicolas, because we're going to talk about trends. Camille, is there any interesting trend that you've spotted since you've launched Crushon in terms of, what people like to buy, what type of products, anything that you think is interesting to share with us?
Well, our consumers are buying a lot of classical pieces that are blue jackets, worker jackets. Some pieces that are really classical. You can wear at all time. You can share from women and men, and that
So
I
it's
think
not
the most easier.
not fashion, more atemporal, basically evergreen,
Exactly.
the basics that you need to have in your wardrobe. That's what you're saying, more than the typically fashion, say, of that year, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. That will last a long time.
Great, thank you. And in accessories, is it the same?
Bags are the accessories that are the most bought.
And what's the most popular brand for you?
On Crushon, it's more streetwear brands. So it's around Nike, Adidas, Reebok that are a lot sold on the website.
That's great. Now, Nicolas, you've made some research about prices, about secondhand. You've also talked about China. What are the trends that you have found?
Particularly, I have two trends. The first one is as my experience as a master clients. I went to Faubourg Saint-Honoré and I entered around 15 boutiques asking simple question, do you have second-hand products?
You have what? Sir?
You have second-hand products?
Second-hand, yeah.
Second-hand, very, very simple. And in around 12 boutiques, the vendors see me and say, no, we don't have. And the way the sales assistant look at me, say, oh, what type of clients? Really, I was feeling as an under client if I'm asking. And it was, okay, it was on Faubourg Saint-Honoré, but it was a boutique, an official boutique of the brand, and for fashion and accessories and watches. And all of them, the speech was not clear for the clients. And I think, and I was talking with a lot of brands after, and I told her, it's unnormal today to have this type of reaction from a sales assistant. And we've talked about the weight of the second-hand market today, and to have that. This is the first one, and really I wanted to change. Some of the other, the most interesting experience I have with Gucci, and the sales assistant told me, okay, we have the Vault offer online, and because you're here, I can show you the boutique and I can show you the new collection and maybe trying to switch me from a second-hand to a new product. It was the most interesting way I was received in a shop.
You mean the most commercially effective way?
But I was respected as the clients, not because the others, and I would not name the brand, but some of one was very difficult to stand in face of the sales assistant because I was really feeling as was an under client. The second trend I wanted to share with you is in China, because we always talk about China and luxury market, but we see that the second hand is very, very at the beginning of the market, as you can see in Europe or in the US. For now, only local platforms are running business in China.
Only what, sorry?
A local platform.
Local?
Yes, local platform is running. The most important platforms are not going to China for the moment, doing some business on second hand. Vestiaire Collective and so on, they are not going to there. And the first retail boutiques we see concerning second-hand are one of the most important platform, which is called, I'm sorry the name in China, but ZZR, DDRE, and they open some warehouses where the client can come in. I encourage you to watch the pictures in Retailscope.
ZZER.
ZZER, yeah.
Yes, and you posted.
Yes, I posted the pictures on Retailscope.
You should really.
It's completely amazing because it's a warehouse.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you have iron, and they have put the bag on, and it's completely different from the boutique. Where the brands are investing so much money, and we think that the market is currently the same that in Europe around 15 years ago, when there were only few little shops. Some platforms, the platform were beginning, and no else. So, and the thing, and the third part in China is counterfeit products. They have to fight against that. It's very difficult to fight against that. So, yes.
So when you're a luxury brand, you have zero guarantee.
Yeah.
That, by the way, I look up Nicolas REBET on LinkedIn. Everybody, friends with him now. Check out this photo because it's an eye-opening. You have rails, metallic rails, and then you have Gucci, Burberry, Celine, and just the bags are crushed. The presentation is horrible. You feel like you're in a prison ward, and there's these luxury bags being sold. And you have no idea if this is authentic or not, right?
They are authentic. They are authentified. Normally, they are authentified by the platform. So there's a real difference with the Burberry boutique and this type of boutique, which is only maybe 1 or 2 years after the first buy.
You want to react, I think, on this? Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to go very often in China before the COVID, and what Chinese people told me that they, as a team just said, Japan is a very heuristic country about CPO.
A very what, sorry?
Historical country, and they take care very, very much about the product, and usually Chinese people were traveling to Japan to buy second-hand for the authentication, but in the second-hand you have the quality, and the quality of the product in Japan, as you know, Japanese, they are super strict about the quality of the product, so that was in Asia one key area where you can source or buy or travel for second-hand, so it was very famous, but for sure now China
for retail,
is closed.
For retail, it's the different thing. We don't have for the moment the retail department as we can start to see here in China for the moment.
Yeah.
So in Asia, it started really in Japan, and in fact, Tim, would you argue that Japan was even before Europe?
I think that's it's historical in Japanese culture where they buy luxury goods, and I think even brands like Louis Vuitton that were huge in Japan in the late 90s, they just look after their goods so well. I mean, I came from the car business, and usually when you buy a car coming from Japan, like a classic car, you can usually buy it with your eyes closed because they're just so, they don't drive it in the rain and stuff. So, and we saw that with watches, the market took off very quickly when we launched it in 2015 with our NX1 retail chain, because the quality of the watches that are out there already were just so good. So in terms of part exchange and looking at the condition, it made it much easier for us. And by building the business in Japan, we suddenly saw a new customer database come that were from the used market, collector's market, not just from the new market. So it was definitely, I think, a precursor as a country goes, yes.
Igor, next destination, Japan for you? What do you think?
Hopefully, yes. The next destination for our Collector's Corner will be in Japan, but as my colleague said, it is also a matter of trust. If you, I mean, this is also why we take that option at Longines to do it by ourselves, is because many times you get vintage watches back to the headquarters to do some service and so on. And you were just seeing that some part of the watches has been changed by you don't know who. The parts are of course not original, and sometimes we are talking about the dials, which is really a pity when it's not the original dial. It has been reworked, and then you get those so-called Frankenstein pieces that have no value actually. So this is why we also we also make it to do it by ourselves.
The tampered aspect of watches, I think, is really important because even Rich and Mille, we see watches which have been tampered with, and for us, when you've got genuine customers who want to buy products, now they will come to us to see the authentication. It's as simple as that. And sometimes you say, well, that's never been done by us, it's been done by a third party. It's not worth what a genuine watch is worth.
Your thoughts, Maximilien?
No, that's why we have now in Cresus agreement from the brand. So from few brands like Cartier, Jaeger, Omega, from your group, or TAG from the big groups, LVMH and so on. More and more is the quality, as you say, is to guarantee the authentication with an independent partner, with the brand.
By a human being? By a human being?
By human being and by the expertise, because our watchmaker are trained in the manufacture of the brand, and that's key. So that's why, for me, there is no second hand or brand new. It's just to have quality. Sustainability is the key in the luxury universe. It's a product that you can use forever. You can keep it, you can use it, you can resell it. Sometimes you have people that they sell it 5 years ago and they come back to want the same piece because finally they miss it. So it's more about a global, passionate experience.
Before we open the floor to questions, I would like you and Camille also. So tell us, and we'll start with Camille. Camille, tell us what for you is the biggest challenge, number one, just one answer, and your biggest challenge for the year 23.
To convince all consumers that vintage is the first alternative to better consume.
Great, thank you. And for you, we'll just go in order. What is the biggest challenge for you in the next year, you think?
To develop that kind of business and to be able to purchase enough watches to give them to our customers, yeah.
That's a very good point. Maximilien?
To leave a nice souvenir about a Cresus experience in a one-hour shop or website.
Thank you. And what do you think is the biggest challenge?
To develop some department inside the store for CPOs inside the brand stores.
Major challenge.
Yeah,
and for you?
Just our obligation that we, as a strong brand today, that we feel that the secondary market, we owe it to offer servicing of all the models produced to date and to help customers keep them for many, many, many years.
Great, thank you. So do I have time for one question? No? No? C'est fini? Bon. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And I mean, it was amazing. I had a few people, I have a few books. I'll be there just around the corner if there are any people who want to buy these books from Miss Tweed. But bravo, everybody. Well done.
Thank you, Astrid. Goodbye.
Thank you very much for joining us for this very interesting and important talk. The next one will be the last one of these 4 days. And we have been spoken about traceability, authentication, circular economy, trust, authenticity. But at the end, you know, we need to go even beyond all of this. We need to have purpose-led companies. And I invite you to come back in 10 minutes to listen to Isabelle Gromet, who used to be the catalyst at Danone and is now, you know, the CEO and founder of Good Sense, helping companies to become purpose-driven companies. So please stay with us. And after Isabelle, we will listen to Fabienne Lupo, CEO of the Reluxury Events, with Stanislas de Quercies, former CEO of Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, Richemont, who will do the official closing talk of, you know, this edition. Thank you very much. Thanks to our panelists. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.